Welcome to Politics Now, where we bring you interviews with newsmakers. Today, our special guest is William McCurdy II. He is not only a Nevada State Assemblyman, but also the chairman of the Nevada Democratic Party, and now a candidate for Clark County Commission in District D. Mr. McCurdy, thanks for being here. Appreciate it.
Steve, thank you for having me.
So you've been in the Assembly for a couple of terms. You got sick of it? You don't want to go up to Carson City anymore?
No, I actually love the legislature.
You're the one.
We actually.
You're the one.
I loved it, and we got a lot accomplished while there. You know, everything from tackling issues in criminal justice and making sure that we have a more just criminal justice system, and also looking at everything from education to public safety. But now, where I see my leadership heading is to the local level, where I can actually work to implement some of the policies that we worked on at the state level, now at the local level.
That's funny you should say that. I'm going to ask you a good question, and it seems like every state lawmaker who becomes a local lawmaker, I'm thinking Marilyn Kirkpatrick, Tick Seger-Bloom, people on the Las Vegas City Council like Olivia Diaz, Michelle Fiore, when they're in the legislature, they totally support Dillon's rule, and when they get to local government, it's all about home rule. Do you think your views are going to change on that subject?
You know what? You actually hit the nail on the head. Nevada is not a home rule state. We are Dillon's rule, which makes it actually perfectly positioned to be able to look at the policies that were passed at the state. We can be better to represent these that we so desperately love, to make sure that we're working effectively and efficiently to represent them at the local level. So I believe that we're well positioned to do that.
Yeah, we should remind our viewers that Dillon's rule is the rule that says that all the power centered in the legislature, and the local governments only have those powers that are expressly delegated to them or that can be reasonably inferred from those powers. So in terms of going to the county, this is a rare opportunity, right? Because a county commission seat doesn't open up very often. This is an open seat, 12 years. Larry Weekly's been in there, is now termed out. So that played a role in your thinking, right? I mean, this is something you had to look at it and say, well, this doesn't happen every day, and if this is something I want to do it now.
Of course, and Commission District D is an area that I've grown up in, an area that I'm raising my family in, and an area that I love. And I mean, it's very diverse. We have many issues that are facing us each and every day. Everything from economic development to looking at homelessness issues, and also looking at how can we make sure that government continues to work for everyone. And as you stated, Commissioner Weekly, has held a seat, and I am just looking to utilize this opportunity to further dig in on representing the constituencies that I've already been representing in the legislature.
Do you think over the years that both the city and the county have neglected areas like District D, like East Las Vegas? They don't seem to have the same resources, the same park space, the same municipal services really that other areas like Summerlin and Green Valley and other areas of the valley have. Do you think there's been some neglect over there, and how do you think you can counter that?
I believe that the local municipalities have been doing any and everything that they can possibly do to alleviate this issue. But what I am focused on is making sure that we work closely together, because as you know, Clark County is the nucleus of Southern Nevada, which includes the Strip, and we have 5 cities within Clark County. But what I see us doing with my leadership coming from the legislature and being a problem solver is bringing folks together from all these cities to sit down and have an adult discussion as to what's possible and what are we all willing to do collectively to alleviate this issue, because this is unacceptable that we have people sleeping in our streets, in our sewers, and essentially what that means is that when they go into the parks and they leave things behind that can be harmful to our children, that's a public health concern. So in County Commission District D, I'm going to be focused on making sure that we decentralize homelessness being just in County Commission District D, but looking at it from a regional approach and how we can actually help those who are, so desperately in need. We have a lot of work to do. It's not a silver bullet, because if it was, it would already be taken care of. But I'm looking to bring a fresh perspective on how we address those who are in most need.
Yeah. Now, up at the legislature, there have been bills specifically to address homelessness, affordable housing being one of the most important elements of that. Do you think the county can do more on affordable housing to encourage developers to build affordable housing, to rehab existing affordable housing? What can the county do to increase the supply of that?
Yes, that's a great question. And in the legislature, as you noted, we did make great strides towards providing more affordable housing because, as you know, we are in an affordable housing crisis. Rent prices are through the roof and folks cannot keep up with the rising increase of rent. But what we can do is to make sure that we prioritize how we're growing in a sustainable manner that offers more opportunities to procure affordable housing. And that means, working with our business community and working with our developers and also the realtors to ensure that we're all on the same sheet of music. So I'm looking forward to working with all of them, coming to the table and throwing ideas in the middle and figuring out what we can do collectively to resolve this issue.
Yeah, and we know from your time in the legislature, you support a higher minimum wage than what it is now. That would also help to address some of the homeless crisis as well. Let's talk about a couple issues. First of all, let's back up. Let me ask you, as a longtime resident, as an assemblyman who represents part of that area, what do you think is the number one or two issues, top issues facing District D?
District D, we have an economic development deficiency. It's no secret that, the district has been, in my opinion, looked over. So I am going to prioritize economic development. I actually sponsored and passed legislation this past session, in the 80th session, to prioritize economic development and economic development opportunities in low-income census tracts. In 1994, then President Clinton, he passed a bill that would authorize spending in low-income census tracts, like in the district that I represent. So I would like to look at the entire district from historic West Las Vegas all the way to East Las Vegas and look at what do we have that we can offer to the residents and also to visitors who would like to come and experience the richness of our culture, of our entertainment, and how can we lift those things up. So the first thing that we will focus on is economic development. The second thing we will focus on is criminal justice reform and continue that work that we started in the legislature. I actually had an opportunity to sponsor legislation that would allow for record sealing of folks who have, been convicted of a crime that has been decriminalized, like cannabis. So how can we continue to do the work to improve the lives of the residents in the district? It is a great passion of mine. And so we're going to take it step by step. We're going to hear from the constituents at the door. We're going to hold round tables. We're going to hold, community forums, and we're going to identify what the people want. And I have my ideals and beliefs, and I want to hear from them how I can further elevate their lives and enhance their quality of life. So I'm looking forward to, approaching just a few of those issues, but there are many.
And even something as simple as, having a neighborhood grocery store. The encouragement to stop what they call these food deserts, where all the grocery stores have left, no grocery stores are opening up, and you have to drive a ways to get to a grocery store, and things that people in other parts of the valley. I've got grocery stores, a choice of several around my neighborhood, very very short drive, but sometimes that's not the case.
No, it's not the case, and you point out a very significant issue. Not only that's exclusive to Assembly District 6, in which I was able to sponsor legislation that prioritized, expanding opportunities for supermarkets and grocery stores in underserved food deserts. But it doesn't just stop there. I mean, we have that policy will actually help, our rural communities who actually have to drive way further than what we would have to drive. But we have to do more to bring new ideas to address the needs of the people, like bringing legislation from the state level to prioritize, new development of supermarkets and expansion of grocery stores. And folks should not have to travel, 5 miles or 3 miles outside of where they are living to access fresh food. And we are going to actually take a look at that issue as well. And I was proud to sponsor legislation, and it is now law, that we will prioritize that.
Yeah. In terms of some of the issues that are currently before the County Commission, as you know, the legislature passed a bill that would allow local county commissions to raise the sales tax by 1/4 cent in order to pay for education and other social services, some of the things we've been talking about, including homelessness. If you were on the County Commission, would you support that bill?
Well, I've already done it at the state level, and
so you'd vote for the full 1/4 cent at the county level.
I actually will support it. I support it at the legislature, and the reason for that is, if we are going to say that we have an issue, whether it's in affordable housing, homelessness, a lack of access to, fresh food. We have to take the initiative to deliver services to the people. So I was proud to vote on that legislation. As stated before, Nevada is a Dillon's Rule state, and we will do what the legislature directs us to do.
Yeah. Now, the county commission so far has introduced an ordinance that would allow for an increase of half what the legislature authorized. Are you disappointed? You think they should go for the full quarter cent?
You know what? I, at the moment, think that we should lean on the leadership of the current body of the county commission. It is not an easy topic, but what we know is that we have a crisis on our hands, from education to affordable housing to homelessness, and we can no longer afford to sit still and do nothing.
Yeah. Another of the issues, Commissioner, former Senator Tick Segerblum has addressed, is creating a panel to look into child deaths for children who are under the county's care, within the county system. There have been children who have died in that system, and we've reported on it here at Channel 8. Do you support creating that panel, and what do you think the county ought to do more? I mean, it seems like that's probably the most basic, most important thing the county can do, is take care of children who are in that system.
Yeah, the county has a lot of areas in which they provide essential services to the community, from social services to Department of Family Services, and the fact that we are having children who are dying in our custody is a problem. So I am in support of doing everything that we can to look at this issue, because under my watch, while I'm county commission, we will address that, and we will make sure that we identify solutions to alleviate that problem.
Yeah. In terms of steps that the county ought to take to prevent future child deaths, do you have any ideas on that? Would you say there needs to be a change in policy? Would there needs to be additional accountability? What ideas would you bring to the table on that subject specifically?
So as a state legislator, with any policy that we bring before the committees, the first thing that I do, number one thing, is I identify who all has a say in what's happening in whatever policy that we're trying to pass, whatever policy that we're trying to enhance, or whatever the case may be. So step one for me is to identify what's currently going on. Once we identify what's currently going on, then we start to talk about solutions. What are the solutions to ensure that we protect our children? Because the children can't protect themselves, so it is our responsibility to come together, to figure out what's going on, and after we identify what the issues are, we implement them on the county level. So to answer your question, I'm going to do any and everything that I can do within my power to bring folks together to provide remedy to this issue, because it's actually unacceptable.
Yeah, I see that, definitely. In terms of, we talked a little bit about whether there had been any neglect. In terms of advocacy, obviously there's 7 county commissioners. They represent different areas of the valley. There's a limited pool of resources. Even if you do increase the tax, even if it went to the full quarter cent, there's still a limited pool of resources. So while cooperating with your colleagues, how are you going to also compete with them to get a share of those resources, and maybe a bigger share than you've gotten in the past for that district?
Well, number one thing that we have to do is we have to sit down and we have to talk about our priorities. Because as you stated, everyone has their own priorities for their own districts, for their own constituents. But at the end of the day, I believe that what's good for District D is good for the county, which is ultimately good for the state. So we will have a discussion when that time comes, and I will make sure that I be the absolute strongest advocate that District D has ever seen. Yeah,
you're willing to throw some elbows if it comes down to it.
I am willing to operate in a way that bring folks together. One thing that I have prided myself on is being a problem solver, being someone that's willing to listen, that has an open door, that really wants solutions. I'm solution oriented, and I would like to continue that work with the current body on the county commission and show that I am willing to work to get things done that benefits all of us.
Now, the thing about the county commission that's interesting to me is that it used to be a place where when you went there, you stayed there. You didn't go anywhere beyond that.
Right.
Lorraine Hunt was the last person to go from the county commission to a higher office. That was lieutenant governor, and that was in 1998.
Right.
Then Steve Sisolak came along as chairman of the county commission. There was people talk about the curse of the county commission. Well, he broke that curse. He's governor now. So did that change your thinking, that whole thing? Do you have future plans beyond the county commission that were alleviated by the fact to say, hey, you know, somebody else was on the county commission, they went on to bigger and better things as well. So this isn't going to be the end of a career.
My goal is service. As long as we have issues that are facing the most vulnerable populations, as long as we have areas in which we can improve, I am willing to serve. As the chairman of the party, I serve. You mentioned that then chairman of the county commission, Sisolak, went to governor. He is a phenomenal individual. He has an extreme sense of care and compassion for the people, which is why he is now our governor. And I would argue that he's the best governor that Nevada has and will see. He cares about people. He puts us first. He's solution-oriented like myself. And for me, I'm willing to serve as long as the people will have me serve.
Can you see your service going beyond the county commission to a statewide office maybe someday, Senate, Congress, something like that?
I see myself going as far as the people would like me to go.
Because you're a young guy. I mean, you were the youngest chairman of the Democratic Party ever elected when you were elected at age 28. You've got a long future ahead of you.
You know, with service comes sacrifice. I am young. I'm 31 years old now. I am a single father. I chair the party, the most expansive, accessible, transparent caucuses that we have that are ahead of us, and we've had a lot of gains under my leadership. When I first came in, we did the work to elect Senator Catherine Cortez Masto. She was the only Democratic statewide elected official at that time. We sent Jackie Rosen to Congress. We doubled down on that in 2018 by electing the first governor in nearly 20 years, securing majorities in the Senate and the Assembly, making sure that our Assembly is a supermajority, the first female majority in the country, and we flipped 5 out of 6 constitutional offices.
So came pretty close on that 6th one.
And we came very close. So my goal is to make sure that I provide effective leadership to the constituencies that I'm seeking to represent. Yeah. And I will go as far as they are willing to take me.
Well, we can't let you go before we ask you a question about your role as head of the party. We are hearing from the Trump 2020 campaign. They said Nevada's in play. We're not giving up on Nevada. We definitely want to do it. The Nevada Republican Party looks like it's showing signs of life that it has not shown before. They've got an attack ad going on now against Senate Majority Leader Nicole Cannizzaro and Governor Sisolak. Do you think they've got any chance? Does Trump have any chance to win here in 2020?
I believe that the Trump campaign is drowning. I believe that there's a great awakening from every class of people that this administration does not work for all of Americans. The fact that they're ripping apart families, the fact that our unions are under attack, the fact that working people are under attack, the fact that he is just spewing hate throughout our country. I think everyone is in unified, they're in unified agreement that we will not allow this to stand in our America. And you will see a referendum in 2020 on Trump and everyone that agrees with his ideologies. And we showed that with our Attorney General's race, because we had candidates who were in that race on the GOP side that were trying to lean on Trump. We had candidates that were trying to lean on Trump in the U.S. Senate race, in which we flipped that U.S. Senate seat and sent Jackie Rosen to Washington, D.C. And we showed that in Nevada, we do things differently. We buck national trends. At a time to where union membership is declining across the country, here in Nevada, we're expanding union membership. We're making it easier to do business. We are growing in a way that benefits all of us.
So Nevada's a blue state going forward is what you're trying to tell me.
Nevada is going to continue to do the work to ensure that we elect candidates that represent our values.
All right, sounds good. Well, Chairman of the Democratic Party, William McCurdy, Assemblyman, and perhaps future County Commissioner from District D, William McCurdy, thanks so much for coming and spending some time with us. We appreciate it, and we hope you'll come back soon.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm glad to be here.